welcome to the Narrowing Path, Walking the Spiritual Walk. My name is Stephen Eiderstein, and thank you all for joining me for today's daily reading from James Allen's Daily Meditations. It'll be for February 23rd today, of course, and really looking forward to seeing what it builds upon from yesterday. I really enjoyed the notion of making decisions from the principled place, and instead of that emotional self we like to make decisions from. But this will, of course, be fresh to you and fresh to me. That means I will have not read this prior to actually reading this on the podcast with you all, so you'll get my genuine response, reactions, observations, and what I relate to about the reading. And I'm looking forward to it. This is a highlight of my day, that's for sure, and I hope it is the same for those of you who are consistently tuning in and listening. I greatly appreciate it. And so we'll see how today continues to follow up with everything. So here we go. February 23rd of James Allen's Daily Meditations. Men and women of real power and influence are few. It is easy for a man, so long as he is left in the enjoyments of his possessions, to persuade himself that he believes in and adheres to the principles of peace, brotherhood, and universal love. But if, when his enjoyments are threatened, or he imagines they are threatened, he begins to clamor loudly for war, he shows that he believes in and stands upon not peace, brotherhood, and love, but strife, selfishness, and hatred. He who does not desert his principles when threatened with the loss of every earthly thing, even to the loss of a reputation and life, is a man of power, is a man whose every word endures, is a man whom the afterworld honors, reveres, and worships. There is no way to the acquirement of spiritual power except by the inward illumination and enlightenment. Another great lesson. Just building upon these truths and practicing these truths and practicing these principles, and how are we living? Genuinely, how are we living? Genuinely, what do we believe? Why? What's our motivations for functioning the way we're functioning? The way we're behaving and conducting ourselves? Why are we doing it that way? Are we doing it because everything's good? It seems convenient? Are we genuine, or do we genuinely believe the things we're talking about? Do we genuinely understand the principles we claim to actually represent? Or are we just doing it to make it look good? To make ourselves gain a certain reputation? It's a lesson that all need to consider and ponder and really ask themselves and practice when the opportunity arises to practice. So let's go ahead and get started with it. Men and women of real power and influence are few. I agree with that. I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. Men and women of real power and influence are few. If we assume that real true power only can come from the understanding you need nothing from it, right? That our dependencies and desires are not placed on anything external to us, are not we require nothing from the material world for our own enjoyment of life, for our own contentment and peace in life. There's nothing that the world does to change or modify our conduct. When we operate from there, that is the real power it's talking about here. That is the influence it's talking about here, because you become unmovable, unshakable. And that shows in your convictions and your confidence. So I agree. I really, truly agree with that statement. He goes on to say, it is easy for a man, so long as he is left in the enjoyments of his possessions, to persuade himself that he believes in and adheres to the principles of peace, brotherhood, and universal love. What he's saying here is when it's good, it's real easy to believe those things, right? It's real easy to say those are the principles you hold on to and the principles you practice. Because there's nothing challenging it. Your own selfishness isn't challenging those principles at that point. At least not visibly. Not noticeably. When in reality, a lot of times it's our own selfishness that claim to practice those. Again, to enjoy a certain reputation or to give a certain presentation or air. To try to manipulate power and control over others. The selfishness runs deep in many. So yeah, he's saying here, when it's good, it's easy to say these things. When we have our enjoyments, we can persuade ourselves that, yeah, I believe in these things. These are great ideas. This is the way the world should work. Just let it do that and let me keep mine. He goes on to then follow up with, but if, when his enjoyments are threatened, or he imagines they are threatened, I think that's the most important part there, he begins to clamor loudly for war. He shows that he believes in and stands upon not peace, brotherhood, and love, but strife, selfishness, and hatred. Let's break that one down. But if, when his enjoyments are threatened, when his comfortable life is threatened, relationships are threatened, when his material possessions are threatened, when his money is threatened, reputation is threatened, prestige is threatened, clout. It could be anything that a man could define himself by gets threatened. His convictions can quickly fall apart if they aren't true. He begins to clamor, and I love this part where he says, or he imagines they are threatened. I've made up so much stuff in my mind that I've gotten pissed off about, or that I've gotten scared of occurring, and taken actions on made up situations that really were not based in reality. It was just what my mind came up with because I was scared to lose these things, whether it was a person, a place, a thing, a reputation, money, whatever that fear was. There's a fear of loss that'll come up, and then suddenly I will get sent into this magical, mystical make-believe, and then I'll get scared at the delusion or illusion that I came up with might happen, and I take actions. But none of it really happened. I'm starting to be selfish as heck to make sure this imaginary situation doesn't occur. Then I do things in reality in the present moment that actually can hurt other people. That begins to show that my true nature, my true beliefs are not rooted in the peace, brotherhood, and love that I had so claimed, but more so the strife, selfishness, and hatred. That complete self-centeredness and caring and pursuing only things that are actually important to me. He wraps this up with, he who does not desert his principles when threatened with the loss of every earthly thing, even to the loss of reputation and life, is the man of power, is the man whose every word endures, is the man whom the afterworld honors, reveres, and worships. The man that can practice peace, brotherhood, and love in the face of great loss, great and real threat, destruction of all material possessions, family members, loved ones. when we cling to our principles in those times, and we practice that compassion and the love and the brotherhood and the peace, and we allow things to be exactly what they are, and we don't try to selfishly fight, it gives a different impression. It comes from a different place because things are just things. And life just happens. That was one of the hardest things for me to understand. Life happens. I don't get to control what life does. I don't get to control the outcomes of situations that I put myself in, though I liked to think I did. And when I thought I was controlling the situation, what I really was removing someone's ability to choose anything but what I wanted them to. And so it is control, but it's such a manipulative place to be. It's a self-serving, manipulative, very soul-crushing place to be. So when you can stand there and have some faith and some hope that everything is all right, and whatever can happen in this immediate moment is going to have to be all right as well. Practice that utter acceptance of a situation. It's important. And it shows your character. It shows your character in such a way where he talks about how this is a man of power. This is a man whose every word endures. This is a man whom the afterworld honors, reveres, and worships. This is a man who will live infinitely due to the teachings and practices that he exemplified in every situation of his life, in every aspect and capacity that he was able to demonstrate them. He did. And he stood by them, good and bad times. Those are the people that get remembered. Those are the ones that are talked about, like he says here, the afterworld honors, reveres, and worships. Those are the people with influence and make an impact. A true impact that resonates throughout the world a lot of times. When you can't be shaken from your principles, when you can't be shaken from your disciplines, when you can't be swayed in your decisions, that you don't stray from these spiritual values. There's strength in that. Strength you didn't even realize was yours to have. I didn't know. I talked a little bit about it yesterday. It's freedom. To be completely independent of all those things that bind me from the outside in. That was pretty incredible place to finally get to once in a while. I wish I stayed there all the time, but I know I can get there. When I can get there, and I try to get there as often as possible. Practice, right? He ends with this. There is no way to the acquirement of spiritual power except by the inward illumination and the enlightenment. And he's talking again about this as an internal job, as outside reward, an outside manifestation, an outside progress. But it's the internal spiritual work that needs to be done. There's where the heavy lifting is. There is where you could say a man is made. Internally. All right, great reading. I say that about every single one, I'm sure, but you will probably hear it for the whole year. Just fantastic. It's giving you the opportunity to choose what kind of man you want to be, what kind of person you want to be, woman you want to be. What do your actions say about your belief in times of trouble and stress? That's a good question to ask yourself. What do your actions say about you? So, I'm looking forward to February 24th and just finishing out February strong, of course. But just again, thank everyone jumping on with me. You can go ahead over to the Facebook page for The Narrowing Path, Walking the Spiritual Walk. Give us a like and a follow. You'll get any quotes that are shared, updates on new episodes, and also updates on when different types of episodes will be airing. I'm thinking about shortly putting on a book study of one of James Allen's books, the first book of his I ever read that really inspired me and made me fall in love with his teachings. And also just some observations about what spirituality might mean to me and some other spiritual principles. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this channel grows. And if you follow us, we can make sure that you're aware when the new things are posted or when they're going to be coming up. So thank you all for jumping on with me. And I look forward to February 24th tomorrow. So until next time, thanks.